Howdy, Chunky. It's the voice of reason for a Friday and a magnificent week, if you don't mind me saying. It's the week when we learnt that the news is finished. We can't trust them because they're in cahoots with the police, who will even throw themselves under the bus to try and cover up something like Manchester. We later find out it was more razzle-dazzle, identical to the Tommy situation at St. Pancras, where it simply wasn't what it seems. The shushy from the media in cahoots with the police is the most fascinating revelation that proves we cannot trust a word we read. I was in court yesterday and the newspapers go to great lengths to completely misrepresent what happened. I had a victory. It couldn't have gone better, yet they slam me and make it sound like I lost. How can you lose when the person who's suing you ends up with a £7,500 bill and is told that he'd better drop it? I'll get to that next here at The Voice of Reason.
Oh, shushy, shushy, please be quiet. This tippy-tappy gobshitery ain't for you. Alex Belfield's Voice of Reason.
We must, of course, think about our words, as it says there. You have to think. You can't just say any old words because somebody might not like them and they might take you to a high court where you can end up with hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of bills, which is what people do who want to silence others and use lawfare. Lawfare is the big thing that I was involved in this week, as so many have been who have lost their houses or hundreds of thousands of pounds. You can buy a gagging order in this country for £250,000. I can prove it. And in cahoots with the police, they can make sure that you shushy and you say nothing that embarrasses or unedifies their public position. Yesterday, I was in the High Court for a hearing that was 30 minutes. And the person's lawyers decided to hand a 180-page bundle that cost £7,500 to present that was never read. Not a single page of it. It's all a game to shushy. They ended up with their own costs, and the judge advised them not to pursue this claim and to settle it because he didn't think it was going anywhere. They didn't write that in the newspapers. The newspapers are in cahoots with the establishment. That is the police, that is the government. Now, how do I know this? Well, look at Manchester. Manchester was the first example where we realised that they are literally willing to edit tape so that we can't think about words that are the truth. We have to be razzle-dazzled by the shushy brigade who want us to believe what they want us to see in an edited form. It's enough to drive you to drink knowing that the press are in the office of the very police who are on one side of a case. That happened, as you'll read about, in my trial. In my book, Lockdown Locked Up, which will be out after I'm out of licence because the goons and mafia at MAPA, people saying, what are MAPA? MAPA are the terrorism people who oversee very dangerous people like me. Shushy, you can't say that. I've got a very big exclusive for you, Sunday at 9 o'clock. You won't believe what the police have done now on the very same week that I give them a High Court writ because they've infringed my freedoms for the last 5 years. It's an 8-page document of all of the breaches of law, both liberty and human right to free speech and expression. And they continue to do so. And yesterday they became even more vindictive. And I'll tell you about that Sunday at 9. We saw this week with Tommy Robinson. You can't believe a word you say. It's enough to send you to drink. The fact that they're willing to edit a tape and make out that a man, shushy, has fled the country, when in fact he was going on holiday on a flight that was already pre-booked. We can't believe a word they say. And then we look towards Epping, where these wonderful women, mothers and children, are terrified to walk in their own communities, as is the case across this country, and simply don't want to be abused by the PDF files, who somehow seem to have more human rights in this country than you and I, who are indigenous. Oh, by the way, Pop It in Peeped has been round and the Stalk Alex P.O. box is now working. So if you'd like to drop him a note, feel free, and we will open them live Sunday at 9 o'clock during our big announcement phone-in, alexbelfield.com. I spent 3 years pleasuring His Majesty for shushy words. They said afterwards in interviews they weren't scared of me, they were scared of you, what you might do on my behalf because I had influence. They are weaponizing people's popularity, but not on the left. They don't mind James O'Brien being able to rant and rave like a madman as he proves every morning on LBC, lamenting boring chat. The curiosity about Lucy Connolly is another razzle-dazzle of the media where they needed to shushy her because she offended people by having her opinion during one of the most outrageous cover-ups in this country's history. As we know, they were willing to make us believe untruths, lies, about a man who was in fact less than wholesome, who ended up a year ago, almost to the day, which has had virtually no coverage, by the way, a year ago slaughtering 3 angels. And they expected this nation to take it on the chin and not react. And now over the dinghy diver situation, which are riddling all our coastal towns especially, and other places like Epping, and even elsewhere in sleepy middle-class villages where they've had enough. People are waking up and enough is enough. They will not risk their children's safety or their wives' safety without going down with a verbal fight of we're not going to stand for this. But the media, in cahoots with the government and the police, paint them as far right. We know they're not. They're women and children who are scared. Scared of men who are undeniably per capita more likely to be PDF files than anyone else per capita. We've got the figures. We bring it to you every morning at alexbelfield.com. I have no choice, like Lucy and Katie and Tommy, but to keep taking the pounding from the liars who are on 12 grand a year, who are lefty, namby-pamby, pinko, liberal, Guardian reading, champagne sipping, oyster eating, Agaman, shushy types who write for these newspapers on the direction of their editor, who is influenced undoubtedly by the local police force, the government and the establishment generally. We have to keep taking it because that's all they've got left. If they don't ostracize and vilify people like me and Lucy and Tommy and Katie, the game is up. But what they forget now is because of this YouTube, which for all its faults is allowing me to talk to you today, and for the live shows where Katie is touring, even though many of them may end up cancelled because they arrange for more lefties to be shipped in by the police in police cars, as we know happened. Fake news. Have you noticed they don't do that anymore? The days of verified BBC, where they sanctimoniously sit there and try and tell us, shushy, you're wrong. Well, since Hugh Edwards, they seem to have stopped that because they have no moral high ground. So I believe this is the week that the media died, fully, completely. They were on a respirator before and they were on life support, but now they're gone. Because Manchester proves they will edit tape in cahoots with each other and even throw their own police officers under the bus to make people like me and you and them and him and her look bad. They are evil. And when you hear what the police have done to me on Sunday at alexbelfield.com at 9 o'clock, you won't believe that they could be so vindictive, spiteful, and utterly fucking stupid and transparent. That's the problem. They forget we've got a brain and they haven't because they're hard of thinking. They're limp under the cap. And if they put their heads together, they couldn't make a plank every single time these people get exposed. So when I read in the newspapers that I lost in court yesterday, well, I'm not the one with the £7,500 bill. I'm not the one that was told drop it. I'm not the one that went to the effort. And by the way, I believe it was absolutely ridiculous and vexatious as a claim to put 180 pages into a court that wasn't read by me, them, or the judge. It was simply to make lawyers rich. Shushy. Remember, if you've got deep pockets and $250,000 to throw away, you can gag anyone over anything. It is he with the deepest pockets who wins, and it's disgusting. That is not justice, nor is it free speech. And as for Tug TV, well, I think we've all found ways around that. Yes, if you want to see your little Bonnie Blue having a good old strum of the old guitar, you can just put it in the tippy-tappy and up she pops, squirting like the fucking Bellagio fountains all over everywhere. Marvellous. But be under no delusions. They're in cahoots and they're lying to you. And this week proves it. Tommy, me, I didn't lose. He didn't flee the country. He'd got a plane booked to go on holiday. It was pre-planned. But yet they will work with the police to throw anyone under the bus because they're all corrupt. Welcome to North Korea, UK. And as for Trump this week, what a fantastic fucking hero. The game's up for Sadiq and Kia. Little Kia car Stoma. Sick Deek, our capital mayor, the man who has turned it into a war zone and won't even answer a question when challenged and runs like a baby when Layla Cunningham chases him down the street. Watch that clip this week, hysterical. They're all fleeing their own bullshit, and I love it. And the media's game is up. We now know you are liars and cheats for shushy shushy.
Don't trust the mainstream media. They'll make your teeth itch. Alex Belfield's voice of reason.